Have you ever stopped to think about the hidden, highly volatile network that's literally powering our world right now? I mean, we're talking about millions of miles of pipelines crisscrossing right through our backyards. We've got trains hauling highly flammable liquids through our towns, and massive storage tanks just quietly holding it all. It's a lot, right? So how do we actually evaluate the high-stakes reality of this sprawling system? How in the world do we measure its safety? Because let's be real, the stakes literally could not be higher here. When volatile liquids and gases escape containment, an unintended hydrocarbon release, it is definitely not just some operational hiccup. It triggers a massive chain reaction. We're talking catastrophic environmental damage, tragic impacts on employees, and totally devastated local communities. And of course, all of this culminates in massive, sometimes company-ending financial liabilities.
So welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking exactly how these monumental risks are tracked and managed. Our guide for this is the SASB, Sustainability Accounting Standard. Think of it as the ultimate scorecard. It provides the precise metrics we need to hold these critical industry operations completely accountable.
We'll be looking at 5 key areas today: the midstream imperative, measuring ecological impacts, pipeline and rail safety, embedding a safety culture, and finally, fines and liabilities. Okay, let's jump right into Section 1, the midstream safety imperative. Now, what exactly do we mean by midstream? Well, these entities are basically the crucial middlemen of the energy sector. They aren't the ones extracting the oil out of the ground, and they don't sell the gas directly to your car. Instead, they transport and store it. It's this vast, deeply interconnected transportation phase utilizing pipelines, huge truck fleets, rail cars, and marine tankers. And naturally, it's a phase fraught with inherent everyday dangers. When you're moving millions of tons of hazardous materials, you know you can't just wave your hands and claim you're being safe. You need absolute proof. You need a unified, highly precise metric system to track both sustainability and safety risks simultaneously. And that is exactly the rigorous, no-nonsense accountability the SASB standard framework provides. Moving on to Section 2, measuring ecological impacts. So, the absolute most crucial point here is the strict reporting threshold. It is set at exactly 1 barrel. That's about 159 liters. The standard dictates that any hydrocarbon spill greater than just a single barrel that reaches the environment has to be meticulously documented, no exceptions. This guarantees absolute transparency and completely stops companies from just, sweeping routine daily leaks under the rug. Plus, the scorecard demands extreme geographic granularity. Companies are required to explicitly track spill volumes and land disruptions in highly sensitive ecological areas. We're talking about places like the Arctic, specifically anything north of the 66th parallel, or critical endangered species habitats. Tracking operations here is absolutely paramount. I mean, a spill in these zones doesn't just cause a temporary mess. It can literally wipe out fragile, completely irreplaceable ecosystems for good. All right. Section 3, pipeline and rail safety. Obviously, not every tiny bump in the road is a federal case, but the criteria for a reportable incident are incredibly intense. We are talking about events that result in fatalities, hospitalizations, or unintentional fires and explosions. And for gas pipelines, losing 3 million cubic feet is a massive red flag. This really highlights the constant, catastrophic, explosive risks that are continuously at play in this industry. Now, to actually prevent those disasters, we have to rely on proactive, preventative metrics. Companies are required to measure the exact percentage of pipelines actively inspected using advanced technologies, things like inline tools and pressure testing. And tracking this, it isn't just bureaucratic paperwork to check a box. It is literally the frontline defense against a catastrophic rupture. But hey, it's not just pipelines. In rail transit, safety tracking is divided into 2 really fascinating categories. First, you have accident releases. These are the major derailments or collisions that end up on the evening news. But equally important are non-accident releases, or NARs. By tracking unintentional leaks from defective valves or tank shells right in transit, companies are held accountable for those small, systemic equipment failures way before they escalate into massive tragedies. This brings us to Section 4, embedding a safety culture. You see, a true safety culture isn't something you can just magically switch on the day a pipeline goes active. Actually, it has to span the entirety of the project lifecycle, from the very first land surveys through the site development into decades of active operation and all the way to the final decommissioning and removal. Every single step carries unique, serious risks that must be systematically managed. And when we're talking about operational safety and emergency preparedness, metrics alone just aren't enough. A deeply embedded safety culture requires joint management from both the everyday workforce on the ground and the executive leadership, alongside seamless coordination with all external contractors and subcontractors. It basically demands a totally unified system, designed specifically to avoid catastrophic impacts on human health, local communities, and the broader environment. Finally, let's look at Section 5, Fines, Frictions, and Liabilities. Because when that safety culture fails, the financial consequences are honestly staggering. The standard forces companies to disclose monetary losses across three distinct fronts. You have civil actions, which result in massive settlements, regulatory actions, leading to heavy penalties for safety failures, and criminal actions stemming from extreme safety negligence. These are the very real, tangible monetary penalties for operational failure. But take a second to really imagine the real-world impact when a system fails. The immense fines, the legal fees, the contingent liabilities. At the end of the day, those are just numbers on a balance sheet. They're merely a reflection of the irreversible damage done to the lives of employees, to local communities, and to fragile ecosystems. An unintended hydrocarbon release is a profound human tragedy first, and a financial liability second. So, as we wrap up this explainer, consider how rigorous adherence to these midstream metrics might literally be the only thing standing between routine, daily energy operations and an unprecedented disaster. Is a deeply embedded safety culture, tracked by uncompromising standards, our ultimate protection against catastrophic human, environmental, and financial liabilities? I'll leave you to think about that.